Folks, well, it's time to suit up because it's another episode of the Soul Sessions here. I'm your host, Soul, and with me is a man who loves to hunt his enemies, Hunter Samson. Welcome to the show, pal.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure, mate. You know what I always like to do with every guest here is every story has a beginning. So, Hunter, how did your story begin into the world of professional wrestling?
Well, I've told this story before, but I think the first memory I have is Royal Rumble 95. And it must have been about 7 years old, so I couldn't have been watching it live. It was Shawn Michaels, British Bulldog, last two. So Shawn Michaels goes out, skins a cat, comes back in, axe handle and Bulldog, starts at number one, wins the whole thing, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, this is amazing. So, I was hooked from then. Then also the next year, he does the same thing. Then the Attitude Era came in. So then I was just kind of hooked. It was like larger than life characters, everything about The Undertaker, Stone Cold, The Rock, just hooked. I mean, that was literally before, my main guy was always Triple H. Like, I don't know if that's a controversial opinion, but not a lot of people talk about that. But Triple H, when maybe 99, 2000, I kind of really started to get into it. That was when he had Royal Rumble with Cactus Jack, Street Fight, Hell in a Cell, amazing. Just it's probably one of my favorite matches. The Rumble Street Fight with Cactus Jack, it's up there. Like that's always my answer when I say what's my favorite match. So from then on, I was just this is sold, absolutely sold.
It's definitely a hell of a match, and obviously Triple H would retire, at Mania last year, and obviously the whole situation, with Triple H obviously being someone of your favorite, what is it that you think defines his legacy?
I think with Triple H is his consistency and longevity. To be honest, he's just kept a solid body of work even since day one, even back in WCW, just continued that consistency. Amazing. Can do kind of all sorts of matches, technical matches, hard-hitting matches, street fights we were just talking about. And he was also a massively good promo. So he was able to rile up a crowd before, it was cool to rile up a crowd. He was doing it. So, yeah, man. And if you don't know as well, a little tidbit is that I'm actually called Hunter as a little nod to Triple H. So, yeah. So there you go, man.
Well, damn. Maybe we should get you over to NXT 2.0 and be Hunter Jr. Maybe something from there.
He was hoping. A man can dream, but you never know.
Yeah, a man can dream for a legacy. You never know what can happen. But, obviously, Triple H now obviously taking over from being an in-ring competitor to now controlling basically WWE creative and everything. And we've seen that, obviously, done that before with Black and Gold NXT. Hunter, as a viewer of the WWE product, do you feel like there's a noticeable change in his mindset to creating from NXT Black and Gold to now running the main roster?
Yeah, I think he's bringing what he brought from the NXT Black and Gold brand to the main roster. You just saw it from when he started taking control, maybe SummerSlam last year. It was a certain shift, and you could feel it. Even that main event with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar fought lifting the ring up on its end, and the Roman Reigns catapulting out of it. It was class, and you could just tell that with the guys that he brought back in and stuff. And yeah, there was a certain shift.
Oh, definitely. Well, and also, mentioned their NXT Black and Gold as well, which is someone that many people hold that era of NXT so close to their heart with everything that was going on, even with Drew and Andrade and Aleister Black at the time as well. For you, Hunter, as well, was NXT Black and Gold, the original concept of it, probably the most appealing wrestling to you, maybe since being young with the Attitude Era? Or do you feel what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of think they brought that back, to be honest. They were doing a lot of great work. I don't know if you remember the Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa trilogy.
Oh, yes.
Matches. They had elements of that Attitude Era right through that. Even bringing Adam Cole, Undisputed Era, they just changed it all, and it was amazing. I would watch it every week. Not so much now. It's kind of changed. It's a different kind of brand now, and all the kind of top guys from back then are either in AEW or on the main roster. So, but yeah, I think that was the peak of NXT when Triple H was in control. It was Black and Gold, and it was Ciampa, Gargano, Adam Cole on top. Guys Aleister Black back then, but he's Malachi now. But just absolutely amazing matches.
Yeah, definitely. We had someone from Undisputed Era on the show, Bobby Fish, and Bobby talked about how much he loved that whole time they were there, they felt like they were the carriers of NXT. Do you feel like Undisputed Era will be the most defining faction, group, or overall thing from NXT in its history?
Yeah, they're bringing elements of that now in AEW, aren't they? Kind of brought it strong. Adam Cole's kind of aligned with him, so they've always got that kind of running story, which is good. So they've not just like cancelled it and been like, oh yeah, Undisputed Era, it's a WWE thing, we'll just leave it there. They've kind of brought elements of that to other companies, which is amazing. I mean, in terms of back then as well, I was a massive Sanity fan. So Sanity were like, I'd been watching Eric Young for years and like TNA and stuff, and I think Eric Young being like he was a women's champion at one point, wasn't he? So which is like ridiculous. So Eric Young, we had Killian Dane, was big demo on the scene now in the UK. Just amazing. Alexander Wolf, Nikki Cross. Just I was more kind of drawn to like the Sanity side of things, just like dark, mysterious characters with tattoos, rather than the Undisputed Era. But when they came together, they were involved in like War Games, and that War Games match is one of my favorite NXT matches. Just absolute carnage.
It is probably one of the most car crashing, balls to the wall shit show matches that you just love to watch, and just I'm hooked. I'm watching this.
That's what you want.
You mentioned, Eric Young there. Obviously Eric was in Impact kind of recently, with Violent by Design, and then everything happened there, and now he's gone wherever he is. And do you feel like Eric Young is someone that's just a master of character work? Because obviously he was before, in the early TNA days, like kind of snivelly, like a quiet guy, then such a violent artist. Do you feel like his character work is underappreciated?
I think so. Even in WWE, you kind of saw that. Like he was really good in NXT, getting a big push of Sanity. Kind of Sanity came up to the main roster, and they just kind of didn't go anywhere. Eric Young kind of hung about, and he just wasn't getting the kind of push that I thought he should have got. He came out in an interview and said that there's 3 hours of television and you can't find anything for Eric Young to do. There's a problem. But even going back to like TNA, like you were saying and stuff, his character work, even the stuff with like ODB and stuff like that, like he's just like his promos, he was going into like gas stations and just like pinning D'Lo Brown, like randomly just so he could, and it was just like this insane character. So yeah, I was hooked on Eric Young from the start. I mean, actually, my coach at FBWA, Andy Roberts, he actually wrestled Eric Young last year. He just said it was amazing. Like Eric Young is just top class, just a maniac, but in all the best ways.
I'd love to see it. You mentioned, people moving up the main roster for NXT, and one of the main criticisms from that, back in the day of NXT Black and Gold, they would move up and be squandered. Do you feel like there's a particular individual that comes to mind that you feel like was squandered the most?
I mean, obviously Sanity was one that I felt like they should have got a run. They were just kind of getting beaten by the New Day every week and stuff like that. You're even seeing that recently with guys like Gargano and stuff when they brought him back up, and just like, mid card, never really going anywhere. Had most of the guys chasing 24/7 titles and stuff like that. In terms of people moving up and not being used correctly, I mean, the big one is maybe Tommaso Ciampa. So yeah, I mean they've not done what Triple H done with them in NXT 2.0. So
it's a shame to see. Obviously, these guys are very talented and women as well, but then they should be given the time. Do you feel like that is just because the main roster is so stacked and it's hard to get the TV time, or do you feel like it's maybe something else? Or how would you fix it?
I don't know. It's like I've always said that I think Raw is too long, 3 hours. You're kind of diluting the product then. I don't know. I don't know how you'd fix that. Actually, going back to the Undisputed Era and stuff, like they kept them on NXT. I don't know if that was Triple H trying to protect them or something like that, but they never came up for a long time. I don't know if Triple H was kind of just been like, yeah, you don't want to go there just yet because things might not go to plan and stuff like that. But yeah, I think people can be moved up too quick and then wasted, or Vince doesn't have like a direction for them, or just anything creatively. So, which is a shame because some of these guys are massively talented.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to know from your point of view, like when did you decide to move on and become a fan behind the screen to being in the ring? What was that moment that you thought, yeah, I want to become a professional wrestler?
It was actually quite later. I was maybe 26, 27.
Oh.
And I was told most of the time that, oh, you should be a wrestler, 6'7", built as wide as I'm tall. Just, oh, you should be a wrestler. I would go to ICW shows and people in the crowd like, oh, you should be a wrestler, yada, yada, yada. And I just thought, you know what? ICW has GPWA, which is their training school in Glasgow, which is kind of back then, maybe 2017. There wasn't much in Fife or thereabouts to go and train and get the proper training you need and stuff. So I kind of went, you know what, Fife, I've not got much on, 26, 27. I'll just travel twice a week, which was at the start, the beginners on a Wednesday once a week. You would pass that, and then you would be moved up to the advanced class, which was every Tuesday and every Thursday. So that was traveling from Fife twice a week, a 4-hour round trip for about a year and a half I was training there. It was really good. That's kind of where I found my foundations and stuff and basics. And, you take your first bump for the first time. You think, oh, this is going to be easy. But no, even things like rolling, like doing a forward roll, coming up, landing on your feet is just, it's a nightmare. But shoulder rolls and things like that, learn the basics. In that class as well, you had guys that are making absolute waves in the scene right now, like Leighton Buzzard. He was in that class as well. Kez Evans. You had guys just like that are working top tier matches now. So training there for about a year, finding my feet, maybe on the cusp of debuting, and then I unfortunately get injured. So around about, say August 2018. It was simple. It's an actually ridiculous story. So we're doing like a training drill, and one of the drills is a guy drops down, and you have to cartwheel over him. So a guy my size, kind of can look cool if a guy that's doing it. I mean, you've probably seen Ivar doing it in WWE and stuff like that, like cartwheel spot for a big guy. Okay, simple enough. So I go over and I plant my right hand, and I just hear this crack, this crunch, and I'm like, that's a break. That's 100% a break. So basically the noise, like people would tell me from that class as well, like they'll never forget that noise. Like it was just like a crunch, like as soon as I planted my right arm. So I'm lying there in shock. Obviously adrenaline's going through me, and I'm looking at my arm, and it's kind of, it's not the best thing to say, but it was hanging the other way. And I was like, yep, this is happening now. So I just kind of had to deal with it. There was people there that was obviously calming me down and stuff. Training at the time, just kind of phoned an ambulance. There was people there. So I basically get injured, go to the hospital, spend the night in Glasgow Royal on my own. My phone dies, so I can't get in contact with my family or anything. I'm obviously like on painkillers and stuff like that, so I'm just in and out of sleep. So spend 3 weeks in a cast up to my shoulder, which was annoying. And if you look at the medical records, they actually put it down as a traumatic dislocation. And it was the word traumatic, and I was just like, yeah, that's it, done. So like I was in a funk, I was depressed about it. But in my head, I was trying to think positive, and I was trying to be like, you know what, let's turn this bad situation into a good one. Let's come back stronger. Let's just spend these 3 or 4 weeks just kind of getting your head back together and stuff like that. And in that time, the one of the nurses actually phoned me, and she was like, "Oh yeah, we've got your wrestling boots here. Do you want them?" And I was just like in my funk, depressed, just like, yeah, I don't think I'll need them for a long time. Just do what you want. So I think they've just put them in the bin somewhere. Never seen those boots again. So yeah, so got injured, spent however long rehabbing, constantly messaging GPWA, like, oh, I'll get back into it and stuff like that. It played a toll mentally as well, because the muscle tissue, your right arm kind of shrinks down, your left one stays the same. You kind of think, I'll never get this back. So months of rehab, thinking, yeah, okay, do my own thing just now. And then obviously over time, COVID hits, and there's lockdowns, and there's not much wrestling going on. Training schools are doing seminars, and it's not much contact wrestling. So I was just kind of, you know what, just kind of veer away from that right now, do my own thing. But in that time, just before COVID, FPWA had opened up, in Fife, which is all I kind of ever wanted, was like a training school in Fife that was run by a guy I knew who had watched, through ICW and stuff, Andy Roberts, who was the head coach, found out opening up FPWA. And I was like, this is all I wanted. Then obviously COVID hits, and it's like, okay, take a back step. But as soon as things started opening up again, and I was just like, I'll train hard, I'll get back into it sometime. And it was actually me and Andy actually trained at the same gym together in Kirkcaldy. And I'd seen him kind of going in and out, and I'm passing and stuff like that. And just one time I was going up to him and I was just like, oh yeah, I used to train and stuff, and I'd love to come and train with you guys, And he was just like, yeah, doors always open, always welcome. Just try it out, see what you think. Turned up on a Monday, it was horrible, taking bumps again and rolling. I felt like I'd lost everything. But yeah, I was hooked again. So from then, I've just been training non-stop. Andy Roberts, he's a great coach. 17 years experience, was absolutely invaluable in this business. You don't get that a lot these days. And just, that's kind of take me where I am now.
No, definitely. I mean, hey, fair fucking play to you for overcoming that hell of an injury and now bouncing back to doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Honestly, fair play to you, Hunter. Fair play, my friend.
I will say that, and Andy Roberts will testify to this, that anytime there is cartwheel drills or anything to do with cartwheels at training, then I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not risking that again. I've not got over that PTSD. So, I'm not, it's just like, okay, I'll do a roll. I'll roll, I'll make up for it.
Rolls acceptable, cartwheels can fuck off. Fair play.
Exactly. And
that's great to you, man. Honestly, you mentioned FPWAs there, and we had Andy on, and many other from FPWA. Ashley Vega, Nicole, Jasmine, who's trained there as well. Ashley Vega, Daisy Jenkins, everyone, pretty much a good bunch of the roster there as well. For FPWA and its whole self as well, what is it that just appeals to you about that place?
Well, I touched on it before. The main thing is the level of coaching. I think that Andy Roberts is world class. He's dipped his toes in WWE and things like that. Everything he's took from training there and working there for NXT UK, he brings back to us. And I think as well that the actual camaraderie and the training school itself, the people that's in it, is, sometimes you'll get training schools where not everyone's on the same page, not everyone's friendly, everyone's just kind of looking out for themselves, but it is like a family. And I've become close with a lot of the people in the short time that I've been back. So yeah, I wouldn't be anywhere else.
No, definitely.
Genuinely, yeah. And you'll know that as well from having guys on, having Andy on, Daisy Jenkins, Ashley Vega, people like that, just, salt of the earth people. So I couldn't speak highly enough about them.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. FPW's had many guest coaches as well. Former guests of the show, Wild Boar, and James Manson as well. What is it about the opportunities of having guest coaches come in and teach you their knowledge that's such a benefit to you?
Oh, I'll always make time for the seminars. Like you were saying, Wild Boar came in, took so much from that, just intensity, aggression, when to use it, when to apply these tactics, like in matches that make sense. Like there's times in matches where people do things and psychologically you're just kind of like, well, why is he doing that? Whereas these guys, James Mason, Wild Boar, they will break it down and they'll tell you this is why we do this psychologically. Like a guy my size as well, how to channel that aggression and how to just be imposing, just dominate the ring. And just, I think it was James Mason that told me, because I was picking his brain at the end of the session because, why wouldn't you? British wrestling legend. And I was just asking him, what can I do to make my presence a bit better? And he was just like, just be a bit of a prick. He was like, just be that guy. If you're a big menacing heel, why would you cower down to their size? Bring them up to yours. So yeah, these seminars are always invaluable. I'll always try and make them. And they're usually over 2 days as well. So it'll be 4 hours on the Friday night and then 4 hours the Saturday morning. So yeah, it takes its toll on the body when you're just constantly doing rolling drills and but that's what it takes. And I mean, they always say welcome to wrestling when you're doing that and you're feeling sore, you're feeling beat up, and you're like, well, these are the lumps and the bumps,
This is the old grinding gears moving of professional wrestling, and we all love it at the end of the day, my friend.
Well, that's yeah.
And obviously FPWA have put on shows. They've put on their Christmas shows and some crossover shows. One with New Wave Academy, which was the Fatal Five Way. Tommy Cartel, the hardest man in Fife, a few other competitors. But obviously, you would join in for a wee bit, big man.
A little bit.
What was the thing? Were you just thinking Tommy was being a bit of a cocky? And he's like, come on, the hardest man. I'm the hardest man. What was that?
Well, me and Tommy have had run-ins for a while. Last November, had a bit of a match. I went to a decision where the time ran out and there wasn't really a winner. So March comes around, FPWA versus New Wave. That is the Fatal Five Way. So Tommy was saying, he just needed an insurance policy to make sure that what he does in that ring, makes sense. And he needed me. So I came out, made sure things went to plan, made sure no one in the crowd got rowdy, tried to attack him because he does cut a promo and he does, he gets a bit like that with the crowd. So I was just there making sure that everything went smoothly, And if I decided to get involved in the last part of the match, that wasn't Tommy's choice. That was just mine. It just looked like too much fun not to get involved. So,
well, absolutely. You got to enjoy it and have fun. But I mean, it would kind of think in my mindset, we're thinking you're getting him the win. Technically, aren't you? Then technically the hardest man in Fife.
Well, that was your words, not mine. But well, actually, I've just recently won the Tommy Cartel Invitational Battle Royal at the last student showcase. So the winner of that actually goes in to enter the next Fatal Five Way in September. FPWA's 1 year anniversary. So I will be an entrant in that match. So you never know what can happen. You don't know what I'm doing. Well, business relationship with me and Tommy Cartel. It's no one else's business but ours. So.
Well, exactly, Hunter. I mean, maybe, the soul man himself's got to turn up there and maybe see his guest become the hardest man in Fife. I think I would be absolutely celebratory to come in there and see my guest win.
Absolutely. Exactly. You never know what can happen in these events. So I would definitely buy the ticket.
Oh, definitely. Mystery all around. There's so many crazy people that have been in FPW. And one that always fascinates me is such an interesting individual, someone you tagged with, good old Frank Gallo.
Yeah.
He's a fun fella, shall we say, old Frankie boy.
I like him. I'm on that level of crazy and just, lunatic, but in the best way.
Very much so. I mean, who knows? Maybe you and old Frankie boy could win the ICW Tag Team Championship someday.
You never know. That is a tag team. We are undefeated. We've tagged once. Nice. We dominated the opposition, so that was good. I've actually known Frank for a number of years. We're actually from the same hometown. So where FPWA holds shows in Leven, me and old Frankie boy are from the same place. So we've been in the same circles for years now, and not a lot of people know that. So there's more of
a better story than childhood friends becoming tag team champions. It writes itself, Hunter. I mean, this has to happen, right? This has to be your story.
But you never know. You never know what can happen. You never know what can happen in this Fife Way. You never know if me and Frankie G will get a chance to become tag team champions somewhere, and there won't be a more menacing or just more of a lunatic tag team champions than that.
Very much so, Hunter. Very much so. And we touched upon ICW there as well, and ICW is such a special place to Scottish wrestling in itself. For you, Hunter, is there a special ICW memory that sticks in your mind, the most?
Well, I've been going to ICW shows for a few years. Dating back from 2015 or something. And that was when it was really kicking off. Remember the boom in the UK where like UK wrestling was just like peaking. And so Fear and Loathing, my first proper event was Fear and Loathing 2015, where Mick Foley was there. Main event, Drew McIntyre against Grado for the title. That was brilliant. But it was the next year, it was my favourite memory, which was the Hydro. So it was Team Black Label, Team ICW. You had Joe Coffey against Kurt Angle, which was great, insane match. Just the Dudley boys were there, putting people through tables. Brilliant. It was nostalgia. I think the next year as well, there was Rey Mysterio on the show and stuff like that. Rob Van Dam. So like ICW were bringing guys like that in at that period of time, and I was just making every show really. So yeah. I think Fear and Loathing 2016 was my favourite memory. being there and just feeling the energy and things like that. So.
No, definitely. It's a great company. It's great to see, even with it being taken off the WWE network, it's still thriving on Fight and doing its own thing.
Oh, yeah.
For you as a fan and such a long time fan of ICW, seeing it come off the WWE network, was that sort of like a blow? Do you feel like, oh, this is a shame it's not getting the big exposure as it was?
No, I saw it as a positive thing. I thought it was a good thing. They've kind of, they've took that and they've went with it. They've ran with it really. So, Mark Dallas has, came out and said that, they're turning that into a positive. They're kind of getting back to the old school ICW. They're not under that WWE label anymore, where they have to kind of toe the line. So, but I think on Fight TV as well, they'll thrive. ICW's always thrived, and they've always kind of came out on top. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good thing. A lot of people will see that. Well, fans maybe looking from the outside in, they'll be like, oh, you've lost the WWE kind of contract or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
And then from a performance standpoint, no longer get to say, oh, as seen on WWE Network, which is, I was kind of hoping that one day, but the grass is always greener, so you never know.
You never know, Val. Very much indeed. The whole UK wrestling scene is thriving with Rev Pro, TNT, and obviously the two big uns, WWE and AEW, are coming over here this year. For WWE Money in the Bank and AEW for All In, and we've just recently found out that Money in the Bank is going to have the Usos versus Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a match to have here in the UK. I mean, I want to know your excitement for Money in the Bank. You must be hyped for it, right?
Well, me and my friends, we had a choice to make, really. It was either go to Money in the Bank or it was go to AEW All In, which we kind of went to the AEW route. Just something new. It's at Wembley. It's something new and stuff. So
fair point. I totally agree.
I mean, yeah, like that is going to be an absolutely insane event as well. So yeah, Money in the Bank will be good. But we had that choice to make, and we're just kind of like, yeah, okay. But I was at Clash of the Castle last year, and that was insane. It felt like WrestleMania or something.
Oh.
Like, big stadium, just the matches that were on it. It was brilliant experience.
Oh,
so
Clash was fucking mental as well. I was there as well. Fucking hell.
Oh,
it was fucking amazing, mate. Gunther and Sheamus, Drew and Roman. I don't know which was the better match. I mean, what do you think, Hunter?
I thought Gunther and Sheamus, they absolutely brought it. It was just an absolute hard-hitting horse fight. And I remember watching it. I was only second on the card, and I was just like, how are they going to follow this? Like, it was ridiculous. But the main event was good. You had Tyson Fury and stuff there, and yeah, it was a brilliant event. And then it was weird because going up to the stadium as well, it felt like a WrestleMania. Like there was just a row of pubs. There was people outside dressed as like Hogan, Macho Man, just hitting each other with steel chairs. like it was normal. Like there's normal people walking about going, what's going on here? Like this is a rugby stadium. Why is there people hitting each other with chairs and falling through tables and things like that? So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Very much. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, even seeing like the cops there looking around, like, what the fuck have we got ourselves roped into, looking after all these crazy fuckers?
We'll just let it go. We'll let it go. It's a guy dressed as Macho Man swinging a chair. That's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He's all right. He's good to go. But you mentioned making a choice for AEW All In, which I'm very, very excited for with All In. Yeah. Everything going on there. I want to know what kind of matches are you wanting to see on this card? That's going to be so fucking hyped. I can't wait. Honestly, what kind of matches do you want to see?
I would really, really. I mean, there was a rumor. I don't know if it's going to happen, but there was talk of like Bryan Danielson against Nigel McGuinness, because obviously Nigel's doing stuff back in the UK and stuff like that now, and he's obviously on commentary with AEW, so you don't know. I would obviously like to see Pac back. That's obviously, that has to be a shoe-in, being a UK guy. I would love to see the trios titles defended. Possibly, if I was to book that myself, it would be against CM Punk and the Revival. I would book that. It's just an absolute stacked match. I don't know. I think because it's like their kind of WrestleMania, isn't it? Stadium, outdoor. They've kind of got to bring it, and you never know what's going to happen. I just really hope that they don't put on Ryback Goldberg like people have been talking about, because that will empty an arena. So
yeah, that's not even a good enough match for a zero-in buy-in match. That's just...
They can put that on Darker Elevation or something like that. So I'm sure they'll love it.
Very much so. Obviously with AEW recently, Collision just aired pretty much yesterday. technically a couple of hours for us.
Yeah.
Whole time delay. But seeing that new show for AEW, do you think it's a good sign of growth? Some people say like, oh, it's too much too soon.
No, not at all. I think they've got to change. It keeps evolving. I think they've got to keep changing it. Does kind of remind me of old WCW when they brought Thunder in and stuff like that. But if they can keep the level of matches and talent on Collision that they did last night, then it's going to be a success, because some of those matches last night were ridiculous.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if you watched it, yeah?
Oh, of course. I'll stay up till 1 a.m. I'll do it.
Yeah, man. So Buddy Matthews and Andrade was ridiculous storytelling. I think we touched on that as well. Like they were selling old injuries from the past as part of the story, which was great. And obviously CM Punk starting the show, the old promo that he'll do. Just Punk being Punk. Punk being back's obviously a good thing as well. I mean, I've spoke to people and they've been like, kind of over it now and stuff. I'm just like, it's the biggest draw ever. Like, how can you not think that that's a good thing? Like, they must have been a massive Bucks fan or an Elite fan. So
they say that as already.
Can't have it always.
Very much so. Very much so. I feel like the whole brawl out situation. Like he did an ESPN interview where he apologized and said he apologized to him. It's like, if you apologize to the boss, then hey, should be all good. Set aside differences. Let's make some money and let's have some good wrestling at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like that's what it's about, and it's constantly blurring those lines. I mean, that's what gets people hooked on it, and I think AEW do that better than anyone. The promos, MJF, you even seen one recently with Adam Cole. Yeah. They were just, it kind of looks like they're going off script, but you don't know if they are. The CM Punk's ones with like MJF and stuff like that, even Eddie Kingston, like they were hard hitting, telling stories that not a lot of people would know about. So,
no, absolutely. One match I want to touch upon from Collision, which is some people have got a bit annoyed at, is Wardlow losing the TNT Championship to Luchasaurus. That means we've had 7 TNT championships since the start of the year. Do you feel like the TNT Championship's moving too fast between competitors, or do you feel like it's fine because we're getting some good stories and matches out of it?
I think, I don't know, like the changing of that title has been a bit much. They're diluting it a little bit. They need somebody with a kind of long reign. Obviously what Gunther's doing in WWE right now with the IC title. I could see a guy like Wardlow doing that, if they just kept doing it, because, ultimately what they're going to do, they're going to bring it back to Wardlow and then have him fight someone else. So I don't know. I think they maybe should have kept it with Wardlow for a longer period, had some decent challengers. But yeah, his story with Samoa Joe and stuff like that, brilliant. Like that's what you're wanting for that title. Obviously, at the end of the match, there was an interference for Christian and stuff like that. So you kind of, it will be run back.
Yeah,
and it probably will back the other way.
Yeah, very much old cheeky Christian Cage. The man's a myth, the legend, and a cheeky bastard as always.
Captain Charisma.
Oh, absolutely as well. I want to know, Hunter, obviously with AEW All In coming in, and a lot of local talent might get featured on some way. And say Tony Khan came to you and said, hey, Hunter, I want you to come on the show and have a match with anyone in the AEW roster. Make your pick. You get a match in Wembley Stadium. Who would you want to have a match with?
It's a very good question. I think in terms of, no brainer, CM Punk. It's got to be CM Punk. Because obviously I've been a fan of CM Punk since his Ring of Honor days. I mean, last night you had to face off with CM Punk and Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
They had that trilogy back in 2004. Some of the best matches I've seen. So that was a cool moment. So yeah, it would be CM Punk, going through his WWE days, Straight Edge Society, shoot promo in 2011, would be CM Punk. But there's other guys as well. I think Samoa Joe would be a good one. The big hoss fight. Wardlow. I think any of the House of Black as well. That'd be good. Malachi, but yeah, Brody King maybe. I think that would be a huge hit and hoss fight. So yeah, there's so many people you can have a good match with. So in terms of like storytelling and promo, yeah, CM Punk.
Definitely good choice indeed. You mentioned obviously you're a big tall guy, 6'7" and all that. Who do you look at being like the definitive best all around ever, like big lad? You look at him and think that's a He's the definitive big man in wrestling.
It's got to be the Undertaker, right? It's got to be. I mean, it is up for debate, but I think Undertaker just can do a lot of things. I mean, he suicide dives over the top. I think, why is he doing that? But it looks cool as fuck. So, Undertaker, I would say. Just think he looked captivating as well. I mean, I touched on it earlier. Attitude Era, just this big scary guy with tattoos. And I think a lot of people have kind of, latched onto that. But yeah, Undertaker, I think, even because he evolved his character as well, through the American Badass and things like that. So yeah, it's got to be Undertaker. I mean, there's so much, but I think that's the main one that kind of sprung to my head.
Well, fair enough, And, I very much appreciate your time coming on the show, Hunter. This has been a great chat. You've been a great guest. But, I want to ask you one question. Sometimes things happen in the wrestling business and, you may want something and it's on someone and you're like, oh, that's a title, that's a friend. Andy Roberts currently holds a championship right now, which he's held for over a good old 1,000 days. I wondered, Hunter, maybe would you ever like to challenge for that championship?
Against my head coach, Andy Roberts. You never know. I would love that. Love that opportunity. There's guys from the training school that have wrestled Andy in different promotions and things like that. Yeah, that's an interesting one that you brought that up. I would love to wrestle Andy. Be a student versus master kind of scenario.
And well, it looks like the hunt might be on in FPWA, ladies and gentlemen.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. You never know as well. FPWA 1-year anniversary show in September. You never know what's going to happen. I'm also showing up in other promotions. I've got Pro 2 Wrestling, which is an Ayrshire company, in August and October. So you never know. I could be challenging for a couple of titles over there. So keep your eyes peeled on that one.
Well, definitely. When folks will have Hunter's social media links down in the description below this interview. Check him out, give him a follow, and see more on his hunt for gold. But hey, everyone, thank you very much for tuning in for another episode of the Soul Sessions. I've been your host, Soul. He has been Hunter Samson. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in for another episode. Good day.